Hello, hope everybody's having a great week. Just wanted to start off with this story that I was brought to my attention through a tweet from Elon Musk. I assume many of you have probably seen this, where he claims that this was sent to him from inside Disney with basically a list of standards for inclusion and diversity that must be addressed or must be completed on all of their projects, on all of their entertainment. And this is just going to be proof of what we already know, what we've been able to see, if you're paying attention, has been happening within the entertainment industry. But it is just interesting to see like it written out. Like, you would kind of think, okay, this is coming from like social pressure and like the people at the top want this, but they're not being upfront about it. But you'll see here, this is a just direct list of here's what you must do, here's how you must include underrepresented groups within your project. So before we get into that, first I want to address, there's a reply tweet here saying like, oh, this came from an article from Variety. So this was actually in an article from Variety. You can see it's ABC. If you didn't know, ABC is owned by Disney, by the Walt Disney Company, and it's the exact same thing here, the exact same list. But this article came out over 3 years ago. But if you'll notice, September 30th, 2020, I'm not surprised that not a lot of people are aware of this because there was a lot of other stuff going on at this time in the country. This was just after the Summer of Love riots. This was just before the election, so there was debates going on. There was lots of campaign events. Basically, everything else was going on in the news besides, that would lead you to not see this. But this did come out 3 years ago, and it's the exact same list here. And we'll take a quick look at what this says here. So you can see at the top, this is a list for their inclusion standards at the company, and there are 4 sections here, one of them being on-screen representation, creative leadership, below the line, meaning like people that are more behind the scenes, like props, costume designers, that kind of stuff, visual effects, that sort of thing. And then industry access, career, and development. I don't know exactly what that means, probably just some sort of office type stuff. However, you can see it also says at least 3 of these following 5 areas need to be met to fulfill the standard. 3 of 6 to fulfill the standard, 2 of 5, whatever it is, to fill the standard. And just take a look at what some of it is. I'll zoom in a bit if I can. So starting with just the on-screen representation portion, 50% or more of regular and recurring written characters come from underrepresented groups. 50% or more of regular and recurring actors come from underrepresented groups. Meaningful inclusion of underrepresented groups as secondary or minor on-screen individuals. Meaningful integration of underrepresented groups in overall themes and narratives, episodic storytelling. Ongoing meaningful integration of underrepresented groups in episodic themes and narratives. So let's just focus on this part of it, because this is the part that is going to relate most directly to people. So instead of there being a creative vision for how their shows or movies should be made, there's literally saying here that the overall themes and narratives should have a meaningful integration of underrepresented groups. Now, no one is saying here, I think it's wrong. I don't think that there should be any stories regarding black people or Hispanic people. No one is saying that. But when you're on the other end of that saying, we are purposely going out of our way to make sure our stories are focused in this direction, you really have to question that. Like, where there's no creativity involved in this, it's all about race. It's all about virtue signaling. Now, the interesting thing that you'll see here is towards the bottom, because as many of you probably understand, this hiring based on these standards would be illegal. It would go against the Civil Rights Act. And that's why they have at the bottom here this little disclaimer. Anyone involved in hiring decisions is prohibited from asking candidates and talent about their actual or perceived race, religion, color, sexual orientation, I assume, gender identity, military or veteran status, age, disability, or other legally protected categories. So that's their little disclaimer to try to absolve them of any wrongdoing here. You can't, if you're involved in hiring, you can't ask the candidates about these things. But also what the Civil Rights Act states is that you can't make your hiring decisions based on those things either, which completely goes against what they're literally saying here. And then they go into like the writing staff, the directors, all of this stuff needs to have a certain percentage of representation from underrepresented groups. The costume designers, the music supervisors, production design, all of this stuff, it needs to have certain percentages of underrepresented groups. Context is critical when evaluating if a group is underrepresented. I think we all know what that means. As long as they're not a man, as long as they're not white, and as long as they're not a straight, then they're probably underrepresented according to Disney. Just so you could see, according to Wikipedia, what an underrepresented group is, they only really talk about it here in regards to STEM, but the underrepresented groups include women and some minorities, right? And as we know just from today's culture, that means not white people. So, again, this really is not surprising, right? It's not so surprising to see something like this, but it is just a little bit shocking to actually see it written out. Like we all know that this is going on. They deny that this kind of stuff is going on, but then we just see it written out right here. And, of course, this is the reason that this is being posted by Elon Musk is because he's involved in a lawsuit against Disney with Gina Carano. If we know that Gina Carano was fired from The Mandalorian for some of her tweets about transgender or whatever it was. So that's why Elon Musk is involved in this and tweeting something like this. Now, of course, it is old information. This has been out apparently for a while, but I'm not surprised that no one really saw it, given that it came out in a pretty tumultuous time in this country. But it's good that we're seeing it now. Disney has been losing tons of money on their movies and shows recently, and hopefully let's just keep that going. Keep them losing money, and at some point they will be forced to make a change back to how they were, or they will cease to exist. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please consider giving a like and subscribing. I'll continue covering news involving culture, entertainment, politics, religion, all that kind of stuff. So again, thank you so much for watching. Please consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.